much happens to survive and thrive in the jungle. Maybe hearts were made to pump blood. Maybe lungs were made for flood. I won't blunt my blade for cut these chains. Rather let my limbs be dragged through mud. You're my brother, but your eyes are cold. You're my sister, but your womb is bare. I bet our mother will be proud of you. I bet our mother will be proud of you. Mother will be proud. Bad men don't exist, Lord. Evil men exist. I know good men don't exist, Lord. Righteous men exist. Strong men don't exist, no. Undying men exist.
This is what happens when you lose your passion. So I know Conor has been talked about a lot. The whole downfall of Conor McGregor, YouTube videos that I always see. But I just find it almost fascinating, in a not so good way, the change in Conor over the years. And so I just want to go over it a little bit deeper. I know there's a lot of stories about athletes getting famous and getting rich, and then their life just completely changes. They lose their discipline, they start partying, and then their career goes down the drain. But with Conor, I don't think I've ever seen someone more focused, confident, and set on their goals. He would always say what he was going to do. He would put it out there, and then he would go do it. And there's so many examples of that. He's one of the biggest examples of manifestation and the law of attraction in an athlete. I think when you mix the charisma that he does have with the burning passion that he had for fighting, it's a very interesting and cool thing to see. There's a reason why he was the biggest fighter in the world at one time and holds every UFC pay-per-view record, and he's the biggest UFC fighter by far. And then you see the other side of him, the undisciplined drinker, partier, drug user. And listen, at the end of the day, he's still a showman, which means he's still hilarious and he's still just a very entertaining person, even in that state.
Slap that little nose off.
But the thing he's missing is the passion. Like, does he look happier to you in these videos that you see of him drinking and all this stuff? Or does he look like he's going a bit crazy? Compared to when he was in his prime, he was super happy. He was working super hard and it was super disciplined and probably a hard life, but he was still happier, which is the funny thing because, I mean, that's what a passion is. You don't care how hard it is, you're still going to do it and you're still going to be happy. I think having a passion is such a key in life and it puts everything together. And yeah, it's a bit sad to see where he's at now because I think it's such a beautiful thing when somebody has that burning passion like that and they can go out and put out their goals into the universe and then achieve them in front of everybody. So let's take a look at when things started to change for Conor, in my opinion. And I want to point out a few key moments. The first moment would be UFC 205 in November of 2016. This is when Conor fought Eddie and he won his second title. Now, why am I pointing this out? Because most people would probably say like, oh, this is prime Conor, which yeah, it was. But even before the fight and the build-up, I noticed a little difference in him. You know, he was rocking the fur coats and talking a lot more about money and such. Wanting a piece of the UFC pie and all these things. Now, of course, he wasn't that different. He always was doing these things, but especially after that fight, you could see the distance forming between him and the UFC. And obviously you can see the common denominator here is money. The problem at the time was that he almost became bigger than the UFC. Don't get me wrong, they complemented each other very well. They both needed each other. But like, we all know how the UFC is with money. They have a very good business model, and that's why their company is successful, but it's just not the same as boxing, where they just pay the guy a ridiculous amount of money that they can probably not even afford. And it's kind of corrupt and weird, and it's not really a proper business. So yeah, the money was a huge factor, obviously. And we could see this at the time. Conor was kind of passive-aggressive with the UFC. He just wanted more, and rightfully so. Like, he probably should have got more, to be honest. But we know after this fight, he almost kind of retired from the UFC in a way because remember how active he was. He would literally fight like every 3 to 4 months consistently before this. So after the Eddie fight, he took 8 or 9 months off, and then that's obviously when he did the Mayweather fight, which was his huge paycheck. And again, during these times, he was still the Conor we know and love. You could argue that this was prime Conor. He just turned it up a little. Obviously, you're not going to stay the exact same after you just made $100 million. That would change anybody. But after this was really the moment that actually changed Conor in a significant way. He took over a year off after the Mayweather fight, and then that was the Khabib fight, obviously. And this is the moment I'm pointing out because this was arguably the biggest fight of his career in terms of both legacy, and it was a real heated rivalry. And to come back to a fight like that, first of all, after 2 years out of the UFC octagon, and after he made that crazy money from the Mayweather fight, this is the first time we really started seeing Conor acting crazy. I get he was quote-unquote crazy before, but he wasn't crashing out, getting arrested, throwing dollies through bus windows, punching old guys in the bar. This was the first of his many crash outs that would come later. Before, yes, brash, arrogant, cocky, whatever you want to call it. But he was always pretty respectful at the end of the day, especially after the fight. But the Khabib fight was the turning point. Even before he lost, in the build-up, obviously the bus incident, that's really what sparked it off. At the press conference as well, wasn't that stoic, confident guy anymore. He was just going crazy and being very reactive, looked on drugs, and maybe he was at the press conference I'm talking about. And then that's one thing. And then after he lost the Khabib fight, it got worse. This is when he clearly stopped caring about the sport in a big way. Started partying more and getting into the drugs and doing all the stuff we see him do today. And something we don't see him do today is fight. So Khabib did play a huge part in changing him, in my opinion. Of course, he had his moments after this over the years. He took some time off, came back for the Cerrone fight, destroyed him in a minute. Went on to fight Poirier a year later. This was during COVID and all that, so he probably would have been more active if COVID didn't happen. But I think he really expected to win that Poirier fight. And when he lost it, it was hard for him to handle. And I want you to look at the difference between how he handled the first Nate Diaz loss back in 2016 and then how he handled the Poirier loss.
Can you describe the emotions after a loss like that?
You know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I've been on the end of many defeats in my life, and I've rose back, so I will not shy away from it. I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
What are the adjustments you felt needed to be made?
Just, focus on mixed martial arts first of all. It was an 85% camp for boxing for Manny Pacquiao. That's how the fight came about. It was going to be a charity event.
And then look at the results of the fights as well. At the Poirier press conference and media interviews as well, he looks like he doesn't want to be there. It's not the witty Conor from before where he enjoyed the press conference and wanted to get every word in that he can. I know most fighters don't particularly enjoy the press conferences because they're cutting weight and it's fight week and they want to focus on the fight, but it is promotion at the end of the day. It's how to get the fans caring about the fight. So you got to do it. And Conor was really good at that. He was the best at that. Just caring and making things entertaining. But for the third Poirier fight, it's quick answers. Let's finish this as soon as possible. I don't want to be here. That's definitely the vibe I got from him. And then we see the Conor of today where it really doesn't seem like he's coming back at all. I would be surprised if he does. So these are the reasons I think Conor went from this to this. Thanks for watching.